George and Keaton is driving in that area on Avon Avenue, and he sees something that he thinks is kind of odd. So he stops and looks at it, goes and gets his daughter and comes back. And he can see what clearly is a human head.
You'll be presented with evidence that Norma Patton, his wife, helped him directly commit at least 2 of those murders. To dispose of the bodies, to clean up the crime scenes, and to wrap up the bodies and dispose of them in ways that are somewhat similar to the way Melissa's remains were found.
Who killed Melissa Wolfenbarger? Was it her husband or her serial killer dad? It's the killer-daughter murder trial. And this morning we're asking, could the family dynamics tip the scales in this case? Will we see the Flint River serial killer take the stand? Also, this hour, Bryan Kohberger calls his mother right after the Idaho killings. We'll go inside the mind of a murderer, and we are counting down to the matriarch mastermind trial for Donna Adelson. Will her daughter Wendi testify? She doesn't want to. It's all next, right here on Opening Statements. Good morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rowlands, filling in for Julie Grant on this Friday. Happy Friday to you. What a week it has been here at Court TV. Had a couple verdicts. And now we have this fascinating case out of Georgia. The victim's dad is a serial killer. Day 2 of testimony starts next hour in that one. But as we always do, when we start off the show here, we start with the Daily Docket.
Investigation of that death, were you able to determine who killed Kevin Mullins?
Yes.
And how were you able to do that?
Video surveillance footage.
From the evidence you've seen so far, the shooting was a reaction to what was on that cell phone in that moment. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Basically, all it said was, treat me fair.
Here's a look at some of the stories. We are following cases that will be in court today in Kentucky. You just saw some of that. Former sheriff accused of shooting and killing that judge. We've all seen the video back in his chambers. He'll be back in court. Mickey Stein's in today. The defense is expected to argue a motion to dismiss this indictment. Not going to happen, but we'll watch. It's going to be a big one. 1 p.m. Eastern Time in Iowa. The sentencing of Nathaniel Beavers McGivney is scheduled for 3:30. He was found guilty of murder in the death of a 17-year-old Michelle Jackson. And in Georgia, the killer-daughter murder trial for Christopher Wolfenbarger. That resumes this morning, 9:30. We're going to watch that. It's day 2. It's our top story as well today. It's a real whodunit, at least for the jury after watching those opening statements. Was it the victim's husband? That's what the state says. Or could it have been the victim's serial killer dad? Police arrested Christopher Wolfenbarger back in August of last year after the alleged murder of his wife, Melissa. She vanished back in 1998. Investigators say Christopher told them, well, I never reported her missing, my wife, because I just assumed she'd moved on with her own life. Prosecutors say that Melissa filed for a protective order just months before she went missing. Seems like a real strong case for the state. Her remains were found near Christopher's work. Her remains were not positively identified, though, until 2003. And that's when Carl, dad, came into the play here. He's the dad, also known as the Flint River serial killer. He was arrested for multiple murders from the 70s. The defense here is saying, oh boy, there are darker forces at play, including the possibility that dad and mom maybe even are responsible here. And they brought it up in the openings. Here's a bit of the openings from both the state and defense.
This defendant, Christopher Wolfenbarger, you're going to hear from his own words. You're going to hear what he told the detectives, what he told his children. He never looked for her. He never reported her missing. She gets unidentified for 3 years.
We can all agree that Melissa Wolfenbarger did suffer a tragic death. And you haven't yet heard the extent of which she had suffered tragic life. But the extent of her suffering in life and in death had nothing to do with Christopher Wolfenbarger. There will not be proof beyond a reasonable doubt in this case. There's no DNA, there's no high-powered technology, there's no expert testimony, there's no fiber evidence, no surveillance, no snitches, no co-conspirators, no confession, no eyewitnesses. The evidence will show that the state expects you to fill in all those missing gaps with your imagination.
All right, let's talk about this one. In the city of Hampton, Virginia. Prosecutor Anton Bell is with us, and criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer with us as well. Gentlemen, happy Friday to you. You know, you look at this case, and if you just take the state's facts that they hope the jury focuses on, you got a guy whose wife was missing and ends up dead. She had a protective order out a couple months beforehand. He never reports her missing. You're like, all right, yeah, you probably did it. Okay, well, then you add that the dad's a serial killer and the mom helped mop up after a couple of the murders. I mean, it's if you are a defense attorney sitting there going, man, I wish we had some other stuff to talk about. This is it. Josh Schiffer, your thoughts going in. It's a tough one, is it not?
Hey, we always talk about the power of the empty chair third-party defense. If you can tag serial killer on top of that, it's got to make the defense better, right? You know, you work with what you have, and this is such a unique angle for any defendant to be able to take advantage of, being that there's a prominent, highly convicted, thoroughly followed, almost famous around here, serial killer involved as the parent of the victim. We also have that gap in time, the less than efficient investigation, which is now, of course, coming up in the trial, because we've already had some issues with missing evidence and reports and things not getting reported due to that passage of time. On top of that, we've got some amazing lawyers in front of a great judge. Judge Krause is fantastic. She's no nonsense. We've seen her before. This is a case for people who really love good lawyering, and it's going to be a fantastic Friday.
Yeah, it started off with day one, capturing everybody's interest. Anton, the cold case factor is an issue as well. You take the serial killer out of the equation, and there's, witnesses are not here. This is 25 years since she went missing.
So, good morning, Ted, first of all. So, I've done cold cases before, and I've actually done circumstantial evidence cases because this is absolutely a circumstantial case. Here's your problem. The prosecution, I was going to say the Commonwealth, in our state is Commonwealth, but the prosecution, they have the burden. And that burden is beyond a reasonable doubt. And so, when you have a circumstantial evidence case, that case has to be very tight. The evidence has to be very tight because you don't have an eyewitness. You don't have a confession. You don't have forensic like DNA or fingerprints. And so everything else that would lead to some level of beyond a reasonable doubt has to be very tight knitted. And the prosecution has an extremely high burden in this particular matter because right now, with the dad being a serial killer, with the mom being the cleanup crew, you got some hurdles that you're going to have to overcome.
Absolutely. Let's listen to some of the state opening, talking about the defendant and the victim's daughter. Basically, yeah, they know how to get rid of bodies. Take a listen.
She just remembers her mother kind of disappearing one day. And she'll tell you that one of the oddest things that she cannot reconcile is almost immediately after Melissa just vanished, this defendant essentially just removes all of her stuff out of the house. You can see the pictures of the mother, belongings, and things of that nature. It's gone. While she was growing up, she would constantly ask him, "Where's my mother?" And you would expect that he would have heard an answer at some point, some type of explanation, where she would tell you that he never answered her questions. He never told her I looked for her. He never told her I had reported her missing. Nothing. In fact, she will tell you that this defendant will tell her while he was growing up that he knows how to get rid of a body. He knows how to not get caught. He also told his daughter, and you will hear this from her mouth, that he had a place to go on the run if he needed to.
All right, a little tough to hear there, but basically the daughter of the defendant testifies. Dad said he knows how to get rid of a body, but Josh Schiffer, the problem is so does Grandpa and you know, Ma and Pa Kettle. They're experts.
And like Anton's talking about, it's very hard to ask a jury to guess someone into a conviction, and the defense is really going to focus on that. The circumstantial nature of the limited evidence combined with that age. It's very difficult to ask a jury to make certain leaps unless you're not just certain, but you're absolutely sure. And that's one of the issues where the state's going to stumble on this. It's that age, it's that third-party uniqueness, and it's not starting off on the best foot for the state already, considering some of the coverage that we've gotten, and then these evidentiary issues which have started rolling out from the very beginning. Big questions over whether the state can carry this burden in front of a skeptical jury.
Here's more from the defense opening when they put the foot on the gas in terms of serial killer talk.
Melissa's father, Carl Patton, committed a string of murders in the late 1970s. He was suspected of those murders for a long time. He was investigated, but they were not prosecuted and proved until 2003, 4 years after Melissa's disappearance and death. You'll be presented with evidence that Norma Patton, his wife, helped him directly commit at least 2 of those murders. To dispose of the bodies, to clean up the crime scenes, and to wrap up the bodies and dispose of them in ways that are somewhat similar to the way Melissa's remains were found.
Anton, as a prosecutor, do you have pause in this? You think the guy did it. Obviously, you wouldn't file and you wouldn't go to court. You wouldn't go to trial if you didn't think that the husband did it. But to what degree would you have pause of bringing this case thinking, I don't know if we can win with the baggage of the family in the cold case?
Well, first of all, if how the father and the mother got rid of bodies and eliminated individuals was similar to the nature or the mode of operandi for the current case, that would absolutely give me pause, first thing. Second thing is the rest of my evidence. If my evidence is not tight enough where a jury could reasonably, and I'm talking about reasonably, so you got to be objective, could reasonably be able to say, I'm willing to put this guy away for a certain number of years or for the rest of his life for this particular case. If that evidence is not clear enough for that, because you're talking about murder, I'm not putting it on.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, and if you think he did it, you want justice. I can't imagine the meetings that they had in the prosecutorial office leading up to this and eventually getting the green light to move forward. Let's get a break. Both of you stick around. We'll talk more about this family case and the family dynamics a bit later. But coming up next on Opening Statement.
Are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes.
And Mr. Kohberger, you understand that by entering the guilty plea in this case, you would be giving up your right to appeal any decision this court made, as well as your sentence.
Yes.
We're learning more about what killer Bryan Kohberger did right after the murder. He called Mom and Dad. Plus, Donna Adelson back in court next week for her trial. What about daughter Wendi? She apparently doesn't want to testify. We're going to break down the new motion this morning. Stay with us.
I'm Wendi Adelson. Welcome to Closing Arguments.
What's happening here?
It's unreal. Let me show you exactly what happened.
Closing Arguments with Wendi Adelson tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
These are the cases that captivated the world.
Couldn't keep my life straight. They were killed by their own children.
That challenged the legal system and ourselves. Court TV, Legendary Trials.
Does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Defense wish to make argument today.
Where we do not wish to make arguments, Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
There it is, Bryan Kohberger. He had a chance to address the court and the families that were there at the sentencing hearing, and he respectfully declined and was sent off to prison for the rest of his life. We're getting more details now coming to light about Kohberger and his phone activity after the murders, according to people.com. The quadruple killer called mom multiple times after killing Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. According to a forensic expert, Heather Barnett, she analyzed his phone and his devices. He called his mother at 6:17 a.m. on November 13th, 2022. That's less than 2 hours after the murders. Then again, for 54 minutes at 8:03, when he returned to the crime scene, you remember, in the 9 o'clock hour. He's on the phone with his mom while he's back at the crime scene. So a question to our panel today is, what's going on with mom? And he calls her mother. In fact, mother and father are what he has in his phone for his parents. Here to discuss, Prosecutor Anton Bell, psychotherapist and CEO of Life Counseling Solutions, Dr. Janie Lacey, and civil attorney Ben Chu, also here. Happy Friday to all of you. All right, Dr. Lacey, what's your take? He calls mother and father, that's their names. In fact, when he texts at one point, he texts his father and says, "Father, why didn't mother answer the phone?" I know you don't have a ton of information, but the weird level to a layman is going through the roof for me. What's your take from a professional stance on just his interactions with mom and dad after a quadruple murder?
Well, Ted, I have several theories about what happened, but what we're seeing here is someone who just committed one of the most heinous acts, right, that's imaginable, yet his response is to seek what I would see as comfort and connection with his primary attachment figures. And, that can suggest a few things. So, first, despite committing this mass murder, he's still operating from a place of emotional dysregulation where he needs, in particular, probably a maternal soothing. And, the other part that I would suggest is that, he doesn't understand and fully grasp the gravity of what he's just done, right? A healthy person, quote unquote, would understand that calling anyone, especially family, could implement them. So to me, his behavioral points to someone who compartmentalizes this extreme violence, which we know, while also maintaining what we would see as normal emotional needs, especially when someone has more of a childlike emotional development system, Ted.
Yeah, and Anton, you'd think maybe he's doing it to, cover his tracks. Well, I'm going to get on the phone with someone that in case later it comes back to haunt me. No, I was talking to my mom. You can ask her. But the text saying, "Father, why is mother not responding? Why is she not answering the phone?" What's your take?
First of all, this is creepy. Let me just go ahead and put that out there. Second of all, you're correct. This guy is strategic in some of the things that he's doing, because if you notice also, he turned his phone off during the time frame in which he committed these acts, and his battery was on 100%. So he knows what he's doing concerning certain behavior to kind of cover up or try to minimize what someone may be able to say if they get a lead that he may be the individual that committed this act. So yes, I could see him clearly being able to say, "I was talking to mom. I was talking to dad. I normally talk to mom. I normally talk to dad around this time." And when they did a forensic analysis of his phone, he did talk to his mom quite a bit on a regular basis. So this would be normal behavior.
Yeah, Ben Chu, I mean, it's like out of the movie Psycho, Hitchcock, it was Ed Gein was the vision for that for Hitchcock. What's your take overall on this, and why are we obsessed with any little Kohberger detail?
I think we're obsessed with every detail because it seems so mysterious why he would kill these 4 innocent college students. So I think we all want to know. I personally would love to hear from the parents, not that they're responsible for their son's actions, but I think it would be very helpful to the victims and very helpful to analysts like Dr. Lacey to find out more about their son and why he may have done this.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a good point. And then that sentencing hearing, Mom was there along with, I believe, his sister. Dad was a no-show. He was there for the initial court appearance in Pennsylvania, but did not travel to be there. And she was very emotional, was Mom. Kohberger also, according to multiple sources, is not happy with this whole jail thing, his prison life. It's supposedly miserable. Inmates are tormenting him at night, all hours of the day, taunting him through the vents in the cell, according to a former homicide detective who has knowledge of his treatment. A spokesperson for the Idaho Department of Corrections couldn't confirm the accusations here. I mean, it makes sense, right? You're talking about a guy that has been front page news for a long time, and people just waiting at the maximum security prison there in Idaho. Ben Chu, you know, people are going to be like, good, fine, you know, torment the hell out of him.
Yeah, I think that's right. He's not going to find a lot of sympathy in any quarters, but obviously the prison's going to have to adhere to its standards, and to the extent that he needs physical protection, at least, I'm sure they'll do that. As far as baiting from the other inmates, I'm not sure what, if anything, they can really do about that other than put him in solitary confinement. But again, very little sympathy for him.
Yeah, and Dr. Lacey, fast forward 5-10 years, a guy with his intellect and sort of his makeup from what we know of him. How do you see his life behind bars? Will he morph into somebody who finds peace, or will this always be a problem for him?
Well, Ted, I look at this as a perfect example of the difference between academia knowledge and emotional intelligence, right? So Kohberger, he can probably write dissertations about prison culture and criminal behavior. But what we are hearing from what the reports are suggesting is that he can't emotionally regulate himself enough to apply, you know, that knowledge. So what we're seeing is someone potentially who has some narcissism and social dysfunction, which overrides his intellectual understanding. So he may intellectually know that complaining makes him a target, but emotionally he can't tolerate the harassment. So it's likely he expects his academic maybe credentials or his intellectual understanding to somehow exempt him from the realities of prison life. And I believe this disconnect potentially between his intellectual knowledge and his emotional capacity is going to be really difficult for him as we're looking for potentially in the future. I see him deteriorating emotionally because from what I understand and what I've observed, he's more intellectual. So emotionally, probably in 5 years, there's going to be extreme deterioration that we're going to see from what we see him to be today, Ted.
Yeah, well, good. Most people would say. He'll always have a target. I mean, anybody new is going to go, oh, where's Kohberger? And it'll be a badge of honor if they can inflict anything on him. That's just the way it works in prison, sadly. That's why he tries to stay out. Let's get a break. Dr. Janey, thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Appreciate it. Coming up next.
Isn't the first person in the interview that you mentioned was yourself?
Yes.
You said that you would understand if you were viewed as the prime suspect, right?
Yes.
Before you mentioned anyone else, you mentioned yourself.
Yes.
Wendi Adelson, she took the stand a couple times. Will she testify again during Donna Mama's trial, which is coming up, jury selection next week? We'll talk about that. Plus, the victim's sister in the killer's daughter murder trial testifies. How is the family dynamics of this case going to tip the scales? Stay with us.
All right. Is your mom overprotective of you?
Yes.
All right. And is it fair to say she's, a little on the controlling side?
I don't think she's controlling, but she's definitely overprotective.
That was Wendi Adelson testifying at her brother Charlie's murder trial. Now it appears she doesn't want another shot on the stand during Mom's trial. We're just days away from jury selection in the matriarch mastermind murder trial for Donna Adelson. Wendi Adelson's attorneys have filed a motion to quash her subpoena to testify and instead allow Wendi to place a statement on the record regarding the subpoena. She's testified in 3 trials related to the murder of her ex-husband, Dan Markell. But here's why her previous testimony cannot be used against her.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth? You may see.
Wendi Adelson has never been charged in her ex-husband Dan Markell's murder, but she's testified in 3 trials that ended with the convictions of her brother Charlie, his ex-girlfriend, and her ex-boyfriend. In exchange, Wendi received a specific form of immunity.
And are you here today pursuant to a subpoena?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And that subpoena confers use and derivative use immunity to you, so nothing you say can be used against you in the future.
That is correct.
Okay. That doesn't mean you have full immunity from prosecution, but nothing you say here and nothing derived from it could be used in that prosecution. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding.
While those courtroom statements can't be used against her to develop new evidence, prosecutors do have her police interview, the only one other time Wendi spoke to authorities about her ex-husband's death.
What happened?
Well, before we get into everything, I have to establish where you were and who you were with and so forth. Okay?
Wendi was questioned by police hours after the father of her 2 sons was found shot and critically injured at his home. When asked about their divorce in 2013, she called the relationship contentious.
Danny didn't treat me very well, and I'm so scared that maybe someone did this. Not because they hate Danny, but because they thought this was good somehow.
Would you ever ask someone to do something like this?
Not in a million years.
Okay. Do you think someone would do this for your benefit without asking you?
No.
Moments later, she oddly mentioned her older brother, Charlie, raising some red flags.
He makes a lot of jokes in bad taste. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman and it was cheaper to get you this TV, so instead I got you this TV.
Her comments led police to push for more answers about the Adelson family.
If somebody tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Regardless of who it is.
I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother, but I don't think it was my family. I'm gonna call my parents. And they're very angry with him, right? This isn't like it's their son, but he's the father of my kids. And this is a very, pardon my language, up situation.
Wendi's 4th time testifying is for her mother Donna's trial. Tallahassee attorney Stephen Webster, who represented Dan Markell before his death, testified at Charlie Adelson's trial and has closely followed the case.
I do believe the state is going to ultimately charge Wendi. I don't see any new evidence that has been developed based upon Wendi's testimonies, compelled testimony. So I'm really not concerned at all about any derivative use challenges should she ultimately be prosecuted.
All right, so let's talk about this with the man. He's the host of Surviving the Survivor. Joel Waldman is with us. You got an Adelson question. You talk to Joel. He'll set you straight. What's your take on her not wanting to testify at Donna's trial?
Man, where do I start? Let me start with that police interview. I mean, I've seen it so many times, but just watching it now with you, Ted. I mean, just imagine yourself going to a police interview, being accused of something, and you say, "Well, if someone in my family did it, I don't want them to be prosecuted to the full extent." I mean, who says that unless you know that your family is involved in this? You would never say that. I mean. She doesn't even seem the least bit, stunned or surprised by it. But we broke the news late Wednesday night that basically John Laura, and I apologize, I'm coming off laryngitis, so I sound a little like Darth Vader here. But John Laura, her attorney, who's a very, very good defense attorney, he came out and filed a motion basically saying, look, my client needs to quash the defense subpoena. And immediately everyone is asking themselves, what is going on here? Is the Adelson family now literally disintegrating? Are they cannibalizing each other? It appears that Wendi is looking out for Wendi before her brother, before her mother, and kind of just leaving them in the dust. And to me, it's no real surprise. It's just a sad state of affairs.
Do you think, when you do listen to Wendi, she's sort of just freewheeling it, she's thinking about it, well, maybe to your point, she's connecting the dots that this could be my family. This is hours after the murders. Does it kind of help her in a weird way in terms of you can see her head spinning and the thoughts going, meaning she might not have had a heads up that, hey, we're gonna go kill Danny on your behalf. Charlie's gonna do it. Mom's engineering this. Is it possible that she didn't know? Because a lot of people it's tough to get your head around, your family killing your ex and you didn't know about it.
Yeah, well, I think anyone with a rational mind would probably think, hey, I would never imagine my family doing this, but there's so many things that are lining up. And it's my contention. We argued this on my show, Surviving the Survivor, last night. And most of the people who I've talked to believe that she will be the next in line. She will be indicted. She will be charged. She will be arrested. With that, we had Nima Rahmani on, a great attorney. And he said he doesn't think that's going to happen. Yeah, so there's been a lot of debate over this. But, she had this Best Buy Geek Squad there, which was sort of an alibi that morning. And she goes and throws her brother under the bus, saying that he's making this joke about a hitman would cost less than a TV repairman. So there are all these outstanding things. And then in that police interview that you were just watching, which I had honestly forgotten about till I watched it again the other day, she calls her mother at one point on her cell phone, and it's obviously all being recorded because it's in the police interview room. And it wasn't like, hey, Mom, this is what happened, and she's frantic. She's with Craig Isom, the detective, there's a lot of moments where she's hysterical. When she's on the phone with her mother, she's completely calm, and it's almost like letting her know that the job was done and that there's a problem because Dan isn't dead. Because, for those who do not know, he was shot twice in the head back on July 18th, 2014, but he didn't succumb to his injuries till the next day. And the way she phrases it, if you watch that video, to me, it's appalling. It's like she's giving Donna the heads up that the job was done, but it wasn't completed. And I just think there's enough smoke around Wendi and enough circumstantial evidence that they're going to nail her. Nima doesn't agree with me, but other defense attorneys do.
Do you think Georgia Cappleman has strategically started with the hitman, then gets Mac Benoit, then Charlie, now Donna, and you think Wendy's the last to go? What about Harvey? Is he in the mix?
Well, all you have to do with Harvey is ask my mom, who's on the logo behind me. She's my co-host emerita. My mother's 86 years old, and from day one, she has said that Harvey's involved. This is a highly enmeshed family. Rob, the son, is estranged, so he's not really part of the mix. Everyone else just can't stop talking to each other. Harvey was sort of the the silent assassin, if you will, but he was the money man, and they were paying off the middle woman. I mean, this story is so convoluted for those who don't know, but it's got everything. It's got hitmen, it's got Ferrari driving ex-brother-in-laws, it has boob jobs. I mean, you name it, it's a Miami and North Florida story. And there's no doubt in my mind that Harvey knew what was going on. One quick thing too, Ted, there was another motion that was filed last night. Apparently there's some jailhouse informants that are willing to squeal on Donna ahead of the trial. Now the defense filed a motion in limine saying, hey, don't let this woman, Dorena Bernhardt or Patricia Bird, and another one talk. We got to suppress the evidence, and we're going to see what the judge does with that.
Oh, all right. Can't wait. Nice way to sell it, Joel. This trial is going to be something else. Jury selection next week. Always appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Joel Waldman, still to come.
We have finally made it. He's in custody. And now we just need to get over the last hurdle and get him convicted.
What a bizarro family dynamic in the killer's daughter murder trial. It's tipping the scales. We'll talk about it next.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law, Dan Markell.
Prosecutors say a bitter child custody battle was the motive for the murder-for-hire plot. Now that Donna has turned into a defendant, what's next for the Adelson clan?
Now that the ship is really sinking fast, blood doesn't matter that much.
The Matriarch Mastermind murder trial. Live coverage begins next week, only on Court TV.
I've gathered the facts, and I collaborated with the DA's office and was able to get the facts together to come up with the probable cause to arrest Christopher Wolfenbarger.
We have finally made it. He's in custody. And now we just need to get over the last hurdle and get him convicted.
The killer's daughter murder trial set to resume at 9:30 Eastern this morning, and will be glued. Day 2. Christopher Wolfenbarger is accused of murdering his wife Melissa back in 1999. Her remains, including a severed head, were found in trash bags. They weren't positively identified until 2003. Wolfenbarger wasn't arrested until last year. Melissa, the victim, is the daughter of a convicted serial killer, Carl Patton, known as the Flint River Killer. So how might the family dynamics tip the scales in this one? Could we actually hear from Dad? Will they wheel him in? Thursday, Tina Patton, the victim's sister, testified that she recalled seeing red marks on her sister's neck at the Waffle House where they both worked.
Melissa came in. She came through the swinging door at the back where I was, and I looked at her, and she had tears in her eyes. And her nose was red, her eyes were red, because that's always how she got when she was crying. We all do when we're crying. And everybody in my family anyway. And I noticed that she had like red marks around her throat. And I said, Melissa, what's wrong with you? What's going on? Wait a minute. Is that a handprint around your throat? And she just looked at me and her eyes filled with tears. And I said, did Chris do that to you? And she just looked at me. She didn't really say nothing. And then I just turned and was going to go out the door. I was going to go say something to Chris.
All right, let's talk about this with Anton Bell and Ben Chu, still with us. Anton, you talk about the Taco Bell or the Waffle House. Is this case? I mean, it seems like reasonable doubt is everywhere here, but that's a compelling story that the sister told. I mean, it sets up that, okay, the victim was having issues, and we know that she filed for a restraining order, a protective order, just weeks before her death. How compelling and how much does does that move the needle?
So it does move the needle some, because what you have is a pattern of domestic abuse, and you have a pattern of violent behavior. The fact that this started before they got married, because at the time they were just dating, And so this pattern of behavior began while they were dating. And then after they got married, you know that there was something going on because she filed for a protective order, and then all of a sudden she disappears. Husband says nothing to no one, clears out all of her belongings. So it does lead you to believe, okay, this guy could have done something to her because he has a history of doing something to her. So it helps, not hurt, the case in this particular situation.
Of course, then, Ben Chu, you have to factor in the fact that it's a cold case, and, oh, your dad was a serial killer and your mom helped dispose of a few bodies along the way. What's your overall take of this case and the what seems to be inherent reasonable doubt, especially you factor in the cold case?
Well, I agree. First of all, the Patton family is cursed, you know, for some of their own doing, and then in this case, obviously, the wrongdoing of another horrible crime. I agree with Anton, though. I think the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. People talk about direct evidence, circumstantial evidence. Here, I think it's very strong and, you know, points toward a conviction.
But if you're a juror, Ben, and you also have this backdrop in your head, it's like, all right, so the dad was a serial killer and they disposed of bodies the similar way as her body was found, and the victims, Ben, were in some cases family members that they wanted to silence. Isn't that going to be a little nagging voice in the juror's head?
Ted, that's a great point, and certainly that's where the defense is going to go. And obviously, they only need one juror to have that reasonable doubt. But I still think that the evidence is strong here. So it'll be very interesting to see as the trial develops.
Ben, Anton, the mom is going to testify. We believe that Norma is going to get up there maybe today. They talked about maybe working her in yesterday. This is a woman that she dealt with the state. She is free, but she, according to the defense and the state, they agree, she partook in the disposal of bodies. Now she's going to get up on the witness stand. What's that cross-examination going to look like? First, though, I want to play a little bit of her on Ashley Banfield talking about the fact that she didn't report her own daughter missing either.
What was it that kept you from going to the police about Melissa's, situation? Was it because Carl had his own issues and was headed to prison?
No, that had absolutely nothing to do with it. It boiled down to the police not willing to take a missing persons report because she was over 18. Of course, she was 21. She was married. So, it wasn't my responsibility, really, to report her as missing.
Anton, that could be brought up as well during cross. This should be something to watch, the cross-examination of Norma.
So, Ted, you're dealing with a dysfunctional family. Let's just go ahead and just say that. And so when you have all this dysfunctionalism going on, or this dynamic that's going on with her upbringing, and now she brings this into this relationship with her husband, the things that they would do, the average person of some type of normalized mentality or lifestyle would not do that. And so hopefully the prosecution can put that pink elephant out there and say, look, what they may have done may not be what you may have done. However, these pieces come together to show you that he's guilty.
Yeah, killed a bunch of people. Yeah, it's not what we all would have done. I get it. Anton Bell, Ben Chu, as always, thank you for your valuable time. Have a great weekend.